real quick, the thermostat thing, when we're talking about, getting up to 80 or 72, your thermostat's still at 72 when that guy got the raise and lost weight and whatever. It was just the temperature went up to 80. The thermostat was still down at 72. But taking that flight may raise that thermostat up to 74 or 75 for you. And you're going to feel uncomfortable unless you're chasing this thing down.
Hi, welcome to the Pro-Pilot Playbook podcast, where we give you the tips, tricks, and hacks to become an airline pilot faster and cheaper. And it's 2024, and I'm Mike Martin.
And I'm Sean Ritchie.
Yes, and we've got a great episode to get you moving and get you started into the new year.
Yep, and this is our first podcast we're putting out of 2024. We haven't dropped one in almost a month, or almost maybe exactly a month, to be honest with you. Typically, Mike, I don't know about you. Well, I do know about you, but December for me, I always call it my vacation month. So I kind of take December's off anyway. But we're back at it, ready to hit it hard.
We should add too. We've added the live coaching, which is really, really neat. And we've stayed up on that, where we have it's basically a Zoom call that you guys can get on, the members can get on. And there's usually 6, 8, sometimes 10 people on the call, sometimes only one. We've had that depending on people's schedule. And you guys can interact with usually both of us. If one of us flying, maybe it might be one doing one or the other. And you can ask us anything you want. The other thing that's pretty neat about it, that we had never done this before, but a lot of the people are learning from each other, and they're becoming friends, and we're all helping each other out to get in on these coaching calls. So check it out if you're interested. It's a pretty cool product. I'm really impressed with the software and how well it's gone together.
Right. Yeah, it's not necessarily, you said Zoom call, but it's actually part of that platform we use for the actual program, that we sell. So it's all incorporated into that. But yeah, as a matter of fact, I'm glad you mentioned some of the questions folks have been emailing us in for the podcast have been just the Zoom call. Now I'm doing just the coaching call we had yesterday. Mike, you were on the road, but I hosted it, and 2 of the questions the guys had that were questions we've been emailed. So it was kind of odd because the last couple questions we got in were answered yesterday in our little call.
Yeah, that's the cool thing about this is everybody's thinking the same thing. You know how they say that if you're in class and you're thinking you're going to ask a dumb question, somebody else is probably thinking that too.
Right?
That's kind of
you said
how
that
it goes.
You said that to me years ago, Mike, when I was me and the wife were buying the first real house together. You were like, whatever you think you're into and you're looking for, everybody else is doing the exact same thing, no matter how unique you think you are.
Oh yeah.
It is true. That is so true.
Yeah. They, if you're looking for houses in a certain price range, everybody else wants the same one that smells good, that has the newest updates. And,
nobody wants a stinky house.
Right. Exactly. Boy.
But yeah, we've got a ton of, our typical platform or whatever layout we do here is answering people's questions. We've had some interviews, and we have some great interviews lined up, actually.
Yes.
And we have a ton of questions in the email hopper to get to. But this podcast, I was driving home from the gym this morning, and this hit me that we need to do this. This will probably be one of our shortest podcasts ever, but it's simply titled Take Action, which is something if you guys follow us, watch us, you've heard Mike and I say that over and over and over again. It is the most important thing. It's the thing that defines you from your peers.
Yes.
And taking action and self-discipline. Without those 2 things, you're not going to be successful at anything.
Yeah, it's totally right, and none of this stuff is really our original thoughts. But one of Sean and I's connection early on in our careers 20 years ago is we're both reading a lot of business books and motivational books and everything to help improve ourselves and excel in business and in life. And once you read 20 of those books, or 50 in our cases, or even more, they all have a same theme, and really you need to just get out there and do it, just what you said. And the important thing is not doing something is doing something. So
Absolutely.
you doing the same thing that that's an old Jim Rome, I think.
Yeah.
So all these people watching that are like, I'd really like to be a pilot, and you're watching all these podcasts, and you just watch them, and you never take action. Then 10 years from now, you're going to arrive somewhere, and it's going to be the same place you're in right now. Yeah, I think Jim says you'll be wearing what you don't want to wear, driving what you don't want to drive,
Right. Right.
living in a place you don't want to live. You know,
Yeah.
so if you keep doing the same thing that you're doing, you're not going to change. Nothing's going to change. And it really all starts with motivation. Gary Vaynerchuk's big on this. You just got to get out and do it. And another thing that's quoted a lot from these guys and is perfection stifles progress, right? So you're
Mhm.
like, well, I want to wait till I have the exact amount of money to become a pilot, and I'm not going to investigate this until this happens at work, and it frees up enough time for me to do this, or if a certain one of my kids is out of the house, or yada yada yada. There's always some sort of event that you're waiting for the perfect moment to do that, and really you got it all wrong. You really just need to get moving, you know.
Yep. Yeah. This is a little bit of a this is kind of a grittier quote, but the wife and I were just watching that True Detective last night. I think it was the second season,
Yeah.
and the character in there was like, if he was leaving a note to his son, and he's like, if you're ever wondering, after you're a grown man and you're somewhere you don't want to be, and it's causing you pain, and you're wondering, how much pain can I take before I get off my butt and take action and do something? The answer is, it's endless. The pain is endless. It is an endless, bottomless pit bucket. You will just keep taking on more and more pain and being more and more depressed. You have to take action.
That's great. I like that. I like that. I'm not sure who quoted this one, but another one is, every day you get a little better or a little worse.
Yeah.
How did you do today?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. You know what? I've similar quote I say all the time. You don't have to worry about your peers, your neighbors, anybody you're in competition. There is no competition. The only competition you are ever in with is yourself. And all you got to worry about is being better than yourself yesterday. That's it.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. My all-time favorite analogy, though, that I got to talk about, that really resonated with me, because I've had these situations in my life and mentally kind of overcoming them, is it started with Tony Robbins, I believe, is the thermostat theory. And Tony is great. He was trained by Jim Rome. Now there's another real big podcaster, Ed Milet, that
Yeah.
I've heard say this multiple times. A lot of guys talk all about this, the thermostat of your life, but it's really so true. So a lot of people have had this moment where you have a vision in your mind of where you should be at. Your thermostat is set at 72 degrees, and when your life conditions change, be it your job or your financial situation or any of that. Many of us have had this moment where you're just like, I'm fed up. This is not who I am. You get down, so you're set at 72,
Right, which
and
is
then
comfortable. 72's you're
yeah,
comfortable.
yeah. And then all of a sudden, things start going wrong. Maybe you're not paying your bills. Maybe you're gaining weight, all that stuff. And you reach that limit. You're at 65 degrees, and you're like, this is unacceptable for me. So you kick the heat on, and you start taking action, like we're talking about, and you bring your life back up to 72 degrees. and we can all relate to that. That's very easy, and it's not brilliant.
Right. Well, it goes the
It's
other
just
way though, too, right? I
that's
mean,
that's the brilliant part of it. So when
right.
they really talk about this is a real eye opener. So the same thing happens in reverse. Okay. So what you do subconsciously is you start winning in life, and you start getting some wins, you get a promotion, some money starts coming in, you start losing weight, all that stuff, and you start operating at like 80 degrees, right? And you're used to 72 and you're killing it. Everything's good. But something will happen. You will mentally basically sabotage yourself,
Yep.
and you feel like you don't belong there. So you'll subconsciously turn on the air conditioning and bring it back down to 72 degrees. And you'll think about that, and maybe you start slacking off then at work, or you're not reading as much or whatever, because you feel like, oh, I made it, or you close a big deal and you're like, I got enough money, I'm going to stop calling on these other people or whatever, and you slack off. And the whole key is to keep that temperature up and keep driving and going forward. And for me, it's just mentally knowing and preventing yourself from doing that self-sabotage. So that's my advice of the day, my big advice.
Right. But
Yeah.
yeah, we got carried away with the quotes there, which I love. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anybody
Yeah.
watching this can tell we're both those kind of guys into quotes and stuff, which is kind of, that's where the whole Pro-Pilot Playbook came from.
Yes.
Um, and I really thought this would be a great episode for somebody who is constantly scouring. They want to be a pilot. They're constantly scouring the internet and looking for the best way to do it. Like Mike was just talking about, waiting for the perfect amount of money, waiting for the perfect amount of time, and just talk a little bit about goal setting for 2024. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I was going to talk a little bit about how I do it, and it's really quite simple. And I figured this trick out a few years ago, and it was based on a little bit of something that I learned from Jerry Seinfeld, probably
Oh, really?
one of the most famous and successful comedians of all time. Of course, the television show and whatever. But Jerry had a thing he would do when he was up and coming as a comic. He would never let himself go to bed at night without writing down one joke. Maybe that joke came in the morning when he was having his coffee, eating breakfast or whatever, or lunchtime or whatever, and he'd write it down. Boom, he's good for the day. But he tells a story about there's some nights where he would lay in bed for a couple hours waiting for today's joke to come in so he could write it down in his notepad.
That's awesome.
And what I'm talking about here is daily habits. Daily habits are the key to achieving anything. I mean, you're knocking out that self-discipline thing, which just makes you feel good, and you're accomplishing what you need. And any goal that I set after, whether it's, we had the episode on Mike and I side hustles, whether it's buying another rental property or rehabbing a house or, buying another business, I write down the goal that I want to achieve, and I start writing down steps underneath of it. I work backwards, right down to the very first thing I need to do. And those of you watching this that want to be a professional pilot, same thing. Your step one, I'll just go ahead and we'll give you the Cliff Notes version. We'll make it real easy for you. Step one is get in the car and drive to the airport. Go find a flight school and start talking to somebody. Take an introductory flight. The rest of it, you don't need to waste a bunch of time on the internet because, Mike and I have pretty much created, that's what the actual program is we sell. This whole podcast, the podcast, is kind of an accompaniment to the program that we sell. But there's another, getting back to the quote thing, Wayne Dyer. He's kind of a spiritual guru guy.
I think he's a doctor.
Yeah. Dr. Wayne Dyer. Yeah. He passed away a few years ago, but he did a lot of that metaphysical, create your own reality type stuff or whatever. But he talks about being inspired versus informed, in spirit versus in form. And I guess the podcast for me is more of like a inspiration for anybody watching this. You get to hear about what Mike and I are doing on our trips. Like I just
Yeah.
got back from Steamboat Springs for 4 days, and the owner let me take my family. I just got back from a free ski trip.
Wonderful.
Whatever. That's inspiration for you guys. The program we sell is information, step by step processes, downloads. Everything is there. You don't need to waste a bunch of time on the internet trying to figure all this out.
Yes.
But,
and it's very inexpensive. I mean, it's not even one, it's about a quarter of one flight lesson,
Yeah.
And everything's organized there. And I mean, we're not selling anything that you can't find online. It's just very organized. I mean, and that's why people are interested in like it. But yeah, I really think the big thing is motivation. If you watch this today and you say, I'm going to go out and start meeting people at the airport, start talking to flight schools, even just researching flight schools online. Take a flight. If you've been wanting to take an introductory flight, get that scheduled and get it on the books. Even if you don't have the money to start your training, just try it. Make sure it's something you really want. You never know what connection you may make with staff there, other people at the airport, and it just might really kickstart everything, because that's how it all starts. That's how it all started for us, right?
Yeah, it's not just the kickstarting of things. I mean, it can be just that, I was talking to somebody just a few weeks ago, and they were saying, well, I'm looking at ATP, I'm looking at American Flyers, all these big box, accelerated flight schools, they have waiting lists 4 or 5 months out to even get in the thing. And I asked them, I'm like, so where are you at right now in your training? And they're like, oh, zero, I haven't started. I'm like, well, maybe instead of burning up hours of time on the phone and the internet trying to figure this out, get your butt in the car, drive over to the airport, and just take an intro flight. Most flight schools offer this thing. It's like $100, and you go up for 30, 40 minutes with an instructor. You will get to fly the airplane.
Yes.
Maybe even take off, depending on the flight instructor, how comfortable he is, what kind of airspace you're in, that kind of stuff. But that simple act of actually going to the airport, smelling the gas in the airplane, sitting down in the seat in the cockpit of that airplane, hearing that motor running, and flying for the first time, and you're at the controls, that could be the jumping off point that lights a fire inside of you, a burning desire that's what I was just talking about with the Wayne Dyer thing. You will be inspired in spirit. It will be out of your control. It will be the only thing you want to do, and you will make it happen.
Yeah, and it will it'll help you, even if you only have the money to do one intro flight. It'll help you absorb this content that you're watching and everything so much better. It's going to tie everything together. A lot of people watch hours of stuff and read stuff before they go fly on. Once you practically do it, it really, really will be really great. And back to the thermostat thing, you may be in a job you don't want to be. You may not be the best student, all that kind of stuff, and you may be thinking, I just don't know if I can do this or not. It may not just be financially, it might be mentally or whatever. And just forcing yourself to go out of your comfort zone and take that flight, I think, could be very, very inspiring and definitely worth $100.
Right. I'm so glad you just mentioned that, Mike. Yeah. Well, real quick, the thermostat thing, when we're talking about, getting up to 80 or 72, your thermostat's still at 72 when that guy got the raise and lost weight and whatever. It was just the temperature went up to 80. The thermostat was still down at 72. But taking that flight may raise that thermostat up to 74 or 75 for you. And you're going to feel uncomfortable unless you're chasing this thing down.
Yep.
Back to the whole waiting for money, waiting for this time to be right. Oh, well, I just started this job. You know what?
Right.
Everybody, I think Bezos said this, or somebody said this about, or maybe it was Elon, but we all have on planet Earth here, human beings have the exact same number of hours in one day. And there are people who have become professional pilots I guarantee, who are way worse off than you right now watching this. They figured
Yes.
it out. They figured it out with their schedule, with their bank account. There are ways to do it. And really, the longer I live, I realize money's the easy part. I mean, you can find money for this, especially if you're bettering yourself for your career. There's money out there to be found.
Oh yeah, and just a little inspiration. I mean, we get emails. Sean and I probably receive, and this is not to discourage anyone, but 5 to 10 emails a day of questions, podcast suggestions. But a lot of those emails are success stories. I mean, we see it all the time, and you guys can see it in the comments. Guys are like, "Hey, I did it. You guys inspired me to start this or do this, and I was in a job I didn't like, and this is where I'm at." And a lot of times they update on where they're at in their career, and all that stuff. So, I mean, we're not just making this up. There's average people every day that will watch our videos and become pilots. We meet them in person. We meet them in FBOs. I just saw a guy. I don't think I told you this one. A Wheels Up pilot stopped me again in an FBO in Florida. He heard my voice and he's like, "Hey, man, I just got a job at Wheels Up. Week on, week off, flying all over." He was telling me all the places to go. Real young guy. Can't think of his name, but he was from Little Rock, I believe. And I go, "Are you having a great time?" He's like, "Oh man." He goes, "I love it, man. I can't get enough of it. Thank you for helping inspire me and lead me on the way." So, yeah. So these people are just like you, and they just they took the initiative, really.
Right. I'm not sitting here. We're not sitting here claiming that, it's going to be easy. It's going to be challenging, but without at least for the first couple of years, getting through your training, that first job, those first couple aviation jobs aren't going to be that great, whatever. But without the bitter, the sweet ain't as sweet. And when I'm talking sweet, I'm talking once you get to the airlines and you only work 12 days a month, and eventually you're making close to $500,000 a year. That stuff's going to be nice. That's the whatever. And
it takes discipline to get there.
Gravy train.
Yeah. And it takes discipline to get there. One of my other great favorite Jim Rohn quotes, he might be my favorite. I don't know. There's so many of them, but he says, "What's the difference?" Somebody asks him, "What's the difference between discipline and procrastination?" And Jim says, "Well, procrastination is a fun day at the beach. Discipline is owning part of the beach." So, you can choose to, turn this video off and go screw around all the rest of the afternoon. But you can also choose to not do that. And one's going to get you a lot further,
Right. I don't know. I felt inspired that we should make this be our first video of 2024. I know I've got my year planned and plotted out, and I'm focusing on having probably my best year yet here.
Yes. And some of that focus is going to be on the Pro-Pilot Playbook, so the viewers will get to enjoy. Like I said, we've got a lot of good interviews coming up. One I think that we've got in the queue is going to be our highest viewed video of all time, and it has to do with designated pilot examining. So that's a teaser. We're working on that, and that should come out. We're hoping this month, so that should be good. But and also, if you guys have not even a question, but a suggestion on what somebody we can interview that would be helpful to you, let us know on that too. Yeah, because we've got a lot of things planned. But I got a new sign, a new neon sign for the new year. I haven't hidden the cord yet. You can see that, but we're gonna have a real studio here going on.
Yes, pretty cool.
Yep.
All right. If you're just joining us, you know all the stuff. Hit the like button, subscribe.
Yes.
If you have no idea what we're talking about with the Pro-Pilot Playbook program, go check that out. Pro-pilotplaybook.com.
Yeah.
And if you have a question for us, you'd like us to answer on the podcast that you don't already see that we've covered, you can email us podcast@propilotplaybook.com.
Yeah, and I don't know how many episodes we're up to, Sean, but it's a ton. Didn't we just turn
I think 70 something.
70 or something? But I will say this, and this is important. If people know how on YouTube to go to our channel, and then there's a way to search the channel, because almost every day we get an email with a question that we already have an entire episode about.
Exactly. Yeah, that happens.
Yeah, we've got a ton of great content there. Nothing is really outdated. Even though it's over a period of years, the pilot short is still hot and heavy, and almost all of our content still applies. So, if you're thinking of a question, certainly ask, but also check our channel to see we may have an episode about that.
Yep. All right. Thank you for joining us. Go take action. Drive to the airport. Make 2024 your year.
Absolutely. Thanks for watching.